We're back, and we're continuing a tremendously timely conversation with one of our country's most thoughtful and, I believe, impactful analysts of military matters, a man with long experience in the uniform of the United States Army, as well as in other positions in our government at the Office of the Secretary of Defense, the National Security Council, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and elsewhere. John Mills is his name. Colonel, we were talking about the prospects that China may essentially make an old fashioned invasion and potentially very expensive attack against Taiwan, unnecessary or at least easier by some of the operations that it's engaged on elsewhere in islands beyond the first island chain, as it's called. Talk, if you would, about how you believe the Chinese are perceiving what the United States government has been saying lately about its response to an attack, either direct or presumably one that might involve some of these more oblique actions as well.
Well, once again, President Biden has made a clear statement on defending Taiwan, and then his staff rolls it back. This is utterly ridiculous. This is like Reagan staffers rolling back, tear down this wall, saying, "Oh, we didn't really mean to tear down this wall. That was just the president was confused." This is ridiculous because they like to kind of the elites and their Harvard trained and British accents like to talk about strategic ambiguity when it
Mm.
relates to Taiwan. Well, strategic ambiguity has two components: clarity and resolve. Clarity and resolve. They are not demonstrating clarity and resolve. President Biden is acting like Mr. Magoo. And so absolute confusion is not on our side is not strategic ambiguity.
Right.
So there's a
And
total
John, let me just say, especially against the backdrop of the Chinese, I am sure, having confidence that they own Joe Biden as a result of the elite capture they've run against him and his family, for that matter. And this brings me to a second point, John. If we're seeing evidence, and you've been very clear in describing it as mobilization for war by the Chinese Communist Party, combined now with another set of revelations, leaks of a treasure trove of information by, uh, well, the Daily Mail, I guess, among others, of police blotter records, I guess you might call them, concerning how the Chinese party's security apparatus is dealing with these pesky Uyghur Muslims and other ethnic minorities out in what the locals call East Turkestan, the Chinese call Xinjiang. It's a pretty damning indictment, is it not, of the Chinese record of actual human rights abuses on an immense scale and indeed genocide.
Yeah, it's as simple as this. If anybody and any reasonable human being should be concerned with the human rights of all human beings, the absolute just injustice and wiping out of the Uyghur population, but also Falun Gong Christians across China, but in East Turkestan has been shameful. It is a genocide, and anybody who enables that, such as firms such as Nike, nobody should be wearing Nike products. If you wear a Nike product, that means you are advocating genocide in Xinjiang, and it's
Mm.
wrong. It is wrong.
Enabling it,
But
actually. Yeah, I would agree. And Apple and so many others. But John, here's the kicker: we're learning that there are shoot to kill orders, evidently in place. If anybody dares to try to get out of the so-called re-education camps, the oppression that's going on inside them, the rape on a systemic basis, and the like is just outrageous. But let me ask you this, John. You're a participant, as I understand it, in the federal government's retirement program known as the Thrift Savings Plan. The board that oversees that, the Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board, working hand in glove with the principal manager of those funds, a guy by the name of Larry Fink, the CEO of an immense financial institution known as BlackRock, are working assiduously to have people like you, John, military, past and present, civilian government employees, invest your money, your retirement savings, unwittingly, perhaps, in Chinese Communist Party companies. Never mind the Nikes. I'm talking about companies, some of them have been sanctioned by our government. Some of them are actually working directly for the People's Liberation Army, acquiring for it weapons designed to kill people like you and your comrades. What is up with that, John? And what's your attitude towards such a proposition?
Well, clearly we need to address the thrift savings board. This is shameful that we're even, it's an embarrassing that we're even having this conversation. This board, everybody needs to, who has federal retirement, civilian or uniform. And guess what? The uniform is evolving their retirement system where it's going to be more and more and more like the civilian thrift savings program. That means our dollars that we're setting aside for our future is really being handed right over to the Chinese to develop weapons to kill us
Yes.
and to oppress their population. So this there is just the Federal Thrift Savings Board, which if you just look that up, you'll see the board members, and there's interesting. There's at least two of them have a connection with NBA teams as part owners.
Mm.
It is just horrendous, shameful, and wrong that we are using those funds to fund the Chinese.
Yeah.
Absolutely, this is wrong and needs to be stopped.
Amen to all of that, John. And your point about the NBA, of course, is the NBA, like Nike and like Apple and many of these other American companies, Bill Gates's, Microsoft, and so on, have been deeply compromised by the Chinese Communist Party. They're working there, they're employing people there, sometimes slave labor, it seems, but they're honed. They're compromised by the Chinese to the point where the NBA, will be completely uncritical, shall we say, of Hong Kong and so much else that's going on there. John, let me just ask you this specific point. There is an effort underway. We're behind it as part of a larger coalition called No TSP for CCP, meaning no thrift savings plan for the Chinese Communist Party. And people can get in touch directly with their elected representatives about this travesty, as John, you've pointed out so powerfully, by going to that website, no TSP for ccp.org. Please just take a moment to light these guys up. We need very urgently. There has been, in fact, a board meeting of this oversight board, the Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board, just today. And they seem hellbent to try to get this in place. And John, I just want to say your retirement savings earned through assiduous service to our country should not be either squandered or worse, used to aid and abet our mortal enemy, the Chinese Communist Party. And I just want to put a fine point on it because that seems to me to be treason, very definition of it. I wish I had time to give you a moment to respond. I don't today, John, but we'll have you back very soon for a further conversation about all of this. Thank you for your leadership and your great service to our country, my friend, over so many years. We're going to talk a bit more about all of this with Claudia Rosette on the other side of a very short break, world class investigative reporter. Stay tuned.